The war in Afghanistan, an overview of the conflict. The war in Afghanistan, also known as the Afghan War, is an ongoing conflict that began in 2001 after the September 11 attacks in the United States. The war was initially launched to dismantle the Taliban government in Afghanistan, which was accused of harboring al-Qaeda terrorists who were responsible for the attacks. The initial military campaign, known as Operation Enduring Freedom, was launched by the United States, the United Kingdom, and their allies in October 2001. The Taliban government was quickly overthrown, but the conflict did not end there. The Taliban regrouped and launched an insurgency against the Afghan government and international forces, resulting in a protracted conflict that has lasted for over 2 decades. The war has been characterized by a range of tactics and strategies, including conventional military operations, counterinsurgency, and counterterrorism measures. International forces, including the United States, have deployed tens of thousands of troops to Afghanistan to support the Afghan government in its fight against the Taliban and other militant groups. The conflict has had a profound impact on the people of Afghanistan. The war has caused significant human suffering, including the displacement of millions of people, and has had a devastating impact on the country's infrastructure and economy. The conflict has also had significant political ramifications, both domestically and internationally. The war has been a source of controversy and debate, with some arguing that it has been ineffective and costly, while others maintain that it is necessary for regional security and stability. In recent years, there have been efforts to negotiate a peace settlement between the Afghan government and the Taliban. In 2020, the United States and the Taliban signed a peace agreement, which included provisions for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan. However, the conflict has continued, and the situation remains complex and challenging. In conclusion, the war in Afghanistan is a complex and ongoing conflict that has had a significant impact on the country and the region. The conflict has raised important questions about the efficacy of military intervention and the challenges of achieving peace and stability in the aftermath of war. The conflict in Afghanistan has also been marked by high levels of violence and casualties. According to the United Nations, more than 100,000 Afghan civilians have been killed or injured since 2009. The conflict has also resulted in the deaths of thousands of Afghan and international military personnel. In addition to the Taliban, other militant groups, such as the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, and the Haqqani Network, have also carried out attacks in Afghanistan. The conflict has been further complicated by issues of regional and international politics, with countries such as Pakistan and Iran playing significant roles in the conflict. The war in Afghanistan has also had a significant impact on the United States and its allies. The conflict has been the longest war in U.S. history, with over 2,300 U.S. military personnel killed and tens of thousands more injured. The war has also been costly, with estimates suggesting that it has cost the U.S. government over $2 trillion. The conflict has also had significant political and social consequences in the United States, with the war and its associated issues contributing to a growing sense of disillusionment with government and political institutions. As the conflict in Afghanistan continues, there is growing recognition of the need for a sustainable peace settlement. This will require a range of strategies and approaches, including diplomacy, dialogue, and engagement with local communities and stakeholders. In conclusion, the war in Afghanistan is a complex and ongoing conflict that has had significant consequences for the people of Afghanistan, the region, and the world. The conflict has raised important questions about the role of military intervention and the challenges of achieving peace and stability in the aftermath of war. It is crucial that efforts continue to find a peaceful and sustainable resolution to the conflict, in order to reduce suffering and promote stability and prosperity in Afghanistan and the wider region. In recent years, efforts to negotiate a peace settlement in Afghanistan have continued, with various rounds of talks taking place between the Taliban and the Afghan government. These talks have been facilitated by international actors, including the United States, but progress has been slow and halting. In February 2020, the United States and the Taliban signed a peace agreement that aimed to pave the way for the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Afghanistan and a reduction in violence. However, the agreement has faced significant challenges, and fighting has continued in many parts of the country. In August 2021, the Taliban launched a major offensive across Afghanistan, which quickly gained ground and culminated in the fall of the capital, Kabul. This led to the collapse of the Afghan government and the return of the Taliban to power. The events of August 2021 have raised significant questions about the future of Afghanistan and the implications for regional and global security. The Taliban have made statements suggesting that they will pursue a more moderate approach to governance than in the past, but concerns remain about their commitment to human rights and the rule of law. The situation in Afghanistan remains highly uncertain, and there are significant challenges ahead in terms of establishing a stable and inclusive government, addressing security concerns, and promoting economic development and social progress. The international community will play a key role in supporting Afghanistan during this difficult period, and efforts will need to be made to ensure that the gains of the past 2 decades are not lost. In conclusion, the war in Afghanistan has been a complex and challenging conflict that has had significant consequences for the people of Afghanistan, the region, and the world. While the events of August 2021 represent a significant setback, efforts must continue to find a sustainable and peaceful resolution to the conflict and to support the people of Afghanistan in their quest for stability, security, and prosperity. Moving forward, there are several key issues that will need to be addressed in order to ensure a sustainable and peaceful future for Afghanistan. These include governance. The Taliban will need to establish a stable and inclusive government that can meet the needs of the Afghan people and provide security and stability. This will require a commitment to human rights, the rule of law, and democratic principles. Security. The Afghan security forces will need to be strengthened and reorganized to effectively address security challenges in the country. This will require continued support and engagement from the international community. Reconstruction and development. The conflict has had a devastating impact on Afghanistan's infrastructure and economy, and significant investments will be needed to rebuild and develop the country. This will require a coordinated effort from the Afghan government and the international community. Regional cooperation. Afghanistan's neighbors will play a key role in shaping the country's future. Regional cooperation and dialogue will be essential to promote stability and security in the region. Humanitarian assistance. The conflict has caused significant human suffering, and the Afghan people will need continued support in the form of humanitarian assistance, including food, shelter, and healthcare. In conclusion, the war in Afghanistan has been a complex and challenging conflict that has had significant consequences for the people of Afghanistan, the region, and the world. While the events of August 2021 represent a significant setback, efforts must continue to find a sustainable and peaceful resolution to the conflict and to support the people of Afghanistan in their quest for stability, security, and prosperity. This will require a sustained and coordinated effort from the international community, working in partnership with the Afghan government and local communities. It is important to acknowledge that the future of Afghanistan remains uncertain, and there will be significant challenges and obstacles ahead. However, it is also important to recognize the resilience and strength of the Afghan people, who have shown remarkable courage and perseverance in the face of adversity. The international community must remain committed to supporting the people of Afghanistan in their efforts to build a peaceful, stable, and prosperous country. This will require a sustained and long-term approach, and a willingness to engage in dialogue and cooperation with all stakeholders. As the situation in Afghanistan continues to evolve, it is important to remember that the human cost of the conflict has been immense, and that the Afghan people deserve our continued support and solidarity. By working together to address the root causes of the conflict and to promote peace, stability, and development, we can help to build a better future for Afghanistan and the wider region. In conclusion, the war in Afghanistan has been a long and difficult conflict that has had significant consequences for the people of Afghanistan, the region, and the world. While the recent events in August 2021 represent a significant setback, it is important to remember that there have been important gains and achievements made over the past 2 decades, and that these must be preserved and built upon. The future of Afghanistan remains uncertain, but it is clear that a sustainable and peaceful resolution to the conflict will require a commitment to human rights, the rule of law, and democratic principles, as well as continued engagement and support from the international community. As we look to the future, we must remain mindful of the human cost of the conflict and the ongoing suffering of the Afghan people. It is essential that we work together to support the people of Afghanistan in their efforts to build a better future, and to ensure that the gains of the past 2 decades are not lost. The road ahead will be challenging, but it is important to remember that there is hope for a better future. By working together in a spirit of partnership and cooperation, we can help to build a more peaceful, stable, and prosperous Afghanistan, and a more secure and stable region for all. The war in Afghanistan lasted for more than 19 years, and it was a complex conflict that involved multiple parties, including the US-led coalition forces and the Taliban, as well as various other Afghan factions and international actors. In terms of military operations, the US-led coalition forces were able to achieve several significant victories over the Taliban, including the removal of the Taliban from power in 2001 and the killing of several high-ranking Taliban leaders. However, despite these military successes, the conflict remained unresolved, and the Taliban continued to wage a sustained insurgency against the Afghan government and international forces, which resulted in ongoing violence and instability. In August 2021, the Taliban launched a major offensive, which resulted in the rapid collapse of the Afghan government and the seizure of power by the Taliban. The US and other international forces subsequently withdrew from Afghanistan, effectively ending the conflict. Overall, it is difficult to say who won the war in Afghanistan, as it was a complex and multifaceted conflict that defies simple categorization. While the US-led coalition forces were able to achieve some significant military victories, the conflict ultimately ended in a negotiated settlement with the Taliban, and the ultimate outcome remains uncertain.